This is still the morning show here on Signature TV. It's 8:36 a.m. and we've been following this development as it regards the protests across the country. It started on Monday. We also understand that some parts of the country was also agog with this protest yesterday. So we will speak to our correspondent who is in Rivers State, Williams Ucheowaji, is our Port Harcourt correspondent who would give us an update on the situation in Rivers State. Williams, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
All right. Can you tell us the mood of Rivers State right now as regards to this protests that happened on Monday? I understand that it was a little bit quiet on Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. Can you paint a picture of the atmosphere of Rivers State today?
Yeah, this like yesterday after the protest, everywhere has become the protest. Like I said, that very Monday, the military did not allow to would actually they did everything within their force to dispatch those people. So the protest did not really last. So after the protest, really every hour of the morning, everywhere was calm. Reactions was still coming in, condemning the acts and so. But as it's everywhere is quiet, everywhere is peaceful because you don't know what to expect next. So everywhere is just quiet because it things whatever they say did not count. So everywhere is quiet. But what is count?
I understand that there are some persons who were arrested on Monday when that protest was happening. Can you give us an update on that particular issue? Have they been released?
Yes, it was the Mr. Charles Okurum, a Channels TV reporter, was actually harassed and assaulted according to his own account of the incident. Was equally harassed. So Bill Rowari of the Nigerian Info was equally harassed. They tried to stop them from filming the process because at some point they started blocking the protesters when they get to CFC. It's not really far from takeoff points, being as you go to back, moving to other some about it as if you're going to Waterlines. So they were stopped, telling the protesters to stop with their protest. So they were trying to get a little because they already stopped the cameramen from covering the whole process. Like the IT guy was, his camera was seized. Then this channels guy, Mr. Charles Okurum, was actually harassed. They made an attempt to pull him to into a post which he resisted. He demanded they should rather put him in the police van so that he will know that he's in custody of the police. So getting to the van where they wanted to put him. Fortunately for him, the people in the van knew him. So they had to release him, then apologize. But before then, he resisted as well. He held on to it. It was actually released at that same spot, and the camera series was fully released. So they did not take him to show and stuff like that, just on that same scene. So they were released. Then others were in the process of sustaining jury. Some were actually harassed.
What was the reason why the police or the law enforcement agents were stopping journalists from filming it? I mean, is filming a protest now a crime? What was the reason for that?
That is what kept everybody muted for now, and everybody we are scared because the constitution is still running. The constitution of the country has not been set aside for the state of emergency to actually take full fledged. Because from where the argument is some section of argument that it's not truly a state of emergency because it's being mounted by sole administrator, not directly then why are you stopping people from protesting? Harmless protesters, very few, like I said, very few. We could not allow them to root. The military presence was really. Now they decided with the few to take to the street. Then these reporters, we are actually following them to see what the protest will turn out. Then, like we said, it's not much a surprise because it's the military. And then the Mr. said, okay, one of the convener, the leader of the protest said they tried to get approval from police. From his statement, they had approval from the police, but the surprise was still, the shock was, why are they stopping them? Why is just few numbers, not that few. When we say few, between 20, 30 to 50, just like that, and you're still stopping them, while the constitution is still running. They have the right to protest and every other expression movement and so. But that was what happened. So at that point, they started looking at to stop them. Started seeing the protest and passerbys who were caught actually walked into the tear gas, asking some people. So that was stopping them from filming their own actions. That was the issue started. Then the guy replied, "It's your right to do that. It's his own duty to cover the protest. That is not part of the protest." But they still insist. So at that point, everybody tried to save his own head. So that was what happened.
Okay, generally, how are Rivers residents assessing the sole administrator? It's been almost a month since the sole administrator came into power in Rivers State, and there are a lot of persons who have been enjoying a lot of things that he has also been doing. We hear about the budget, we hear about him visiting some sites. How are Rivers people reacting to the development? We have also heard that some persons even took him to court because he was looking to see if he could appoint some persons into local government's authority, at least to help him look at these areas, and he may most likely appoints military men to do that. So what's the general reaction of Rivers people about this current sole administrator style of governance?
And the reaction is still there. There is mixed reaction, like all we know, like let me put it that way, that this whole thing is born out of politics, called in Port Harcourt or something. And giving a mandate on what to actually carry out. So he's playing the script, or he's playing the what is it called? Those that actually appointed him. So the state is now, since it's politics, there's interest, there is a kind of division. This other side of the minister, every minister, they are like, is playing to their own, so they are fine with it. While this other section, they are detecting, then the general public, they are not having peace with it, because we know, since it's politics, happy with what is happening actually. Just take out the politics aspect, because the way it's going now is a kind of, it's more like a dictatorship style. The issue of the budget is there. The issue of some people taking name to court was an expert to stopping him from approving or appointing this sole administrator, these people government sole administrator. He went ahead and approved it. He just did. He has appointed the 23 LGA sole administrator as we speak now. I've sent a copy to the station already. He has also appointed a new research commissioner, a research chairman, and other members as we speak right now. And the sole administrator for the LGA took effect from Monday. That was what the release said. So that is where we find ourselves. Nothing the masses will do. Some people have taken him to court. court has invited him, I think yesterday, to come appear to give explanation or answers to other questions raised against him. So we are still waiting to see how it will play out. But as it stands now, people are still agitating. Who will listen to you? That is the question. How will it go? That is people. This is abnormal situation we find ourselves in a democratic setting. We are having such a rule, not that we are having. Is having a war. It's not there was nothing like war, no insurgency, no killing of any sort. It was all because of political differences, and we know the key actors, the key players. Everything is just all our politics and who control the resources. I think that is just why this solar administrator is in Rivers State to just make changes, because he came down, he collapses all the institutions. Now it's making appointments. So they just being political. They're just so the people are just there watching now. It's like we are. Let me use that word. Now I'm speaking like a fellow Rivers citizen. I think.
Do you have an idea of the kinds of people he appointed into the administration of local government area, the 23 of them? Are they soldiers? Are they people who are retired like him? What is also the local government's administration doing in this regard? I mean, this is new in our lexicon. In our politics, this is new. We've never had a state of emergency happen, and then the person who was governor gets suspended, and the new person comes, suspends every other political appointees, and then starts appointing people in local government areas, even when there's a time lag to, you know, the so-called state of emergency. It's 6 months, and it can be terminated anytime. So one would wonder, really, does this move by the sole administrator show something totally different from what we know as the pronouncement by the president?
That is what we're witnessing, because it's actually strange to everyone. The list released so far from the ones who can pick, because you start to look at the names from your own LG. Like me, I'm from Andoni LG. The name there is not a military person. It's not a retired military man. It's a surveyor. Attached Francis was the one they appointed as a sole administrator for Andoni. And likewise others. There is no military in their names. They are just normal citizens, as in normal civilians they are appointed. The one I know, like I said, before the list, they dropped the list, I think, late night yesterday, but it was in circulation this morning. So the very one I could rush to check, the one that is from my FG, is surveyor attached Francis. So it's not a military retired, just a normal citizen. So the situation now is actually giving us concern now, because the whole thing, he has drifted from the main what the president said when he was declaring the state of emergency. But we all know, yes, we all know that it was a calculative attempt to actually take back the control of the state to some extent, because it's playing out in that direction. National House of Representatives have invited him to come and give explanation, because he has no right to tamper with the budget or approve any new budget, not even the 2025 budget that the governor is supposed to have presented to the Martins-led administration before it was frustrated and before this state of emergency comes. Is it the same one you're trying to go and approve or something? They called him, but we are still waiting. So the whole thing is playing in that same manner, because I do ask questions. I ask some concerned people who are like discussing, calling him to make peace, calling him to do the right thing. Say that, what do you mean? What peace is he coming to make between who and who? Like, are you trying to tell us that he's here to make peace between the suspended governor Fubara and the Young Weekend? What kind of peace? What is the yardstick? I understand to achieve such a peace. The man is just here for the political reasons. They thought that the impeachment may not go maybe the way they wanted So they needed a fast means and to get hold of the state. That was why I came up with the state of emergency for this. So IBAS now to change things to favor them, to make all the changes, change the leadership of all the amount into their own persons. Is that the piece we are talking about? Because that was exactly what we perceived that we have. That is IBA's target and is actually implementing what it was asked. So we are just watching. Nothing. The expectation is going their own way. So it's not yet to make any other court injunction, court cases everywhere, but it's still going on with what he decided to do or what they agreed to do. So that is just the situation we find ourselves.
Right. I mean, there's so many sides to this development, really, because it's shocking, really. So we have a suspended governor, and then this is suspended State House of Assembly members, and then we have a sole administrator who is now going to do appointments. He suspended every other political appointee appointed by the suspended state governor, and then we had the National Assembly who pronounced that the president can wake up and say, you know what, there's some palpable peace in the states, so everybody can return back to their normal state, all right, their normal position. And then you have a central administrator who is moving fast. I mean, you are talking about appointment of local governments, sole administrators. We're talking about even doing appointments. We're talking about budgets. We're talking about, completing projects. And then the presidency in that particular statement said that he is going to mediate between the State House of Assembly and the governor, maybe whoever that is aggrieved, that is actually involved. I'm just wondering, if you put all of these together, do you see a sinister move somewhere to not ask those who have been suspended to return back to power? Do you see this 6 months as one of those things that can play out in such a way that they can extend the 6 months to maybe another 6 months? Because the National Assembly clearly said that it's not going to be later than 6 months, but at least within now and the next 6 months, whatever happens, the presidency can actually terminate the state of emergency. I'm just thinking to myself, like, with what you are seeing, do you think there's a sinister move to make sure that the governor doesn't return and the State House of Assembly members doesn't return to their positions?
Yeah, yes, I would say yes to that in one aspect, because giving to their body language, so far now, that could be their target to some extent. But since it's, Nigeria, anything is possible with this present administration. Let's put it that way, because even in a state of emergency, the sole administrator is supposed to have report to the National Assembly, like the presidency itself. In River State case now, IBAS is reporting the Tinubu and the executive, the National Assembly. So you see the whole thing the way it was actually arranged. We actually tell you, clearly stated that this 6 months is initial 6 months. That is to say there is room for another 6 months. And whenever they make their pronouncements or maybe extend it after the 6 months duration to the next 6 months, they can as well go on and do it, or before the end of the 6 months, because of the speed it's taking now. There's rumor that they are preparing to actually go on with that state election, the government elections. So they are trying to see how they will turn the political card into their favor. When they achieve that, then they will maybe suspend House member back to become a kind of a rubber stamp governor, because you have approval, you need approval from the Assembly, appoints and all. So that is the fear that perceiving it will come to play. But taking it more than the initial 6 months, like you said, like 6 months to the next 6 months, we don't think that might be necessary any longer because they're actually going away from the constitution, making all those changes, like we said, is actually the peace that they are talking about that Ibas is here to do. So having, if he could achieve those things within this space, then why wait for the next 6 months? Because everything is, if they conduct the elections, they will make sure that people will be, let's see the outcome of the election, the local government election. If those things turn out to be in their favor and it is fine, they will return and they are out members. At that point, the government, them and all the political what is it called that we call it. So that is what we are saying, or that is what we are like trying to envisage that may likely happen. Yes, because the way it's playing the script, they have a target, and he has already started it already. All the institutions, all even procurement by contractors has been suspended. Their money to be refunded. All those part of everything that has to do with the suspended government to bring in their own best in all corners of the institutions, agencies, and all of that. So if they succeeded in mounting their people, placing their people, so they can bring back the governor, just sit there, play, because at that point you can't do anything except use your executive power to make some appointment or maybe acting capacity. Let me not say I'm trying to what you call enhance what we have doing, but given to their body language and the speed, I think that should be their target.
11 governors of the PDP have gone to courts. They went straight to Supreme Court. Some persons have also said that Fubara should go to court, in order to address this matter, because it's quite unprecedented how a president will suspend an elected governor of another state. It's nearly impossible. Never heard of that before. But I'm just wondering whether you think that there's anything that the Supreme Court can do about this. I mean, this is a clear, flagrant display of, disregard for the Constitution. So I'm wondering whether you feel that what the Supreme Court, what the PDP governments have done are a step in the right direction.
Yes, because they could seek redress. But the point, we will know how our judiciary would become for them to function the way they should because of political influence. And we also see the role they played immediately the declaration was announced. Immediately they came up to say they withhold the application will be released. But that was not what the Supreme Court says, the judgment of the Supreme Court, that the suspended governor to present the budget to a well-elected, constituted House of Assembly, River State House of Assembly. But the suspension was on the fact that he has to submit the budget to a well-constituted House of Assembly of River State led by Martin Samuel before the allocation will be released. Sorry. But immediately the declaration came, the state of emergency, the Attorney General came up to say that the allocation will be released. So we don't know which one we are going with. Is it so what happened? All
right. Williams, we just have to leave it there because of time. Many thanks for your insight on the program this morning. Signature TV, news in your pocket.